themselves, okay? And just give them a little small snippet of who you are, where you're from. You know, we don't have to go, but just enough to let them know who you are, okay? But we're going to share some stories today to encourage and build up each other. 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Encourage one another, build up each other with our life stories. Because I have some very powerful life stories here. And they're going to share their stories and what I'm believing. And as I was talking to them, I said, I just truly believe that God is going to pick some sisters up today. That when they leave here, they're going to feel so empowered. That even if you are walking, you're going to feel more confidence to finish strong. But if not, their testimonies are going to give you that push. Because testimonies are supposed to empower us and move us forward. Okay? All right. Now I'm going to tell you, Sister Dia has to step out. She has another engagement. That's just how the Lord did you say, girl. So if she is out, you already know it, okay? All right? Okay.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say to Stina, like, I don't know. I'm like, she should be the one just doing that. I've known Miss Tina for a very long time. She still looks the same, and she's just so full of power. And, you know, growing up listening to women like Miss Tina and, you know, other females.
Praise God.
And going to conferences and stuff, and you hear women's, you know, testimonies and stuff. You're just like, man, that's so awesome. Like, oh, that'll never be me, you know. But just, I'm honored that, you know, she's asked me to be here today. And again, my name is Dee. You can just call me Dia. My married name is Dia Nyarko, or Andrea Nyarko. So everybody just calls me Dia. And I from Lexington, North Carolina. Used to go to Life in the Word, and I am married. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and I live in Winston-Salem now. I work for a financial institution, and I currently now am the co-founder and executive director for the Johnny Leroy Dawkins Junior Scholarship.
About everything you said about Tina. she can get you stirred up, just the joy and the love she has for God. And I mean, I just thank God for her. And also, I just want to introduce myself. Like I said, Melissa Ingram. I'm from Lexington, North Carolina. I'm married. I have 2 daughters. Get this, I have a 30-year-old and I have an 11-year-old.
Y'all can laugh. Y'all can laugh.
I also have a 4-year-old granddaughter.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, born and raised in Lexington. I love Life in the Word. I'm a member here, and I just thank God and honor that she asked me to come. So.
Amen.
Hi, my name is Sabrina Johnson. Originally from South Carolina. Married. Have 2 kids. One live in Maryland. One is in Winston-Salem State. And I have a granddaughter, and she's 5. And I go here at Life in the Word.
Yes. And so I have a story about all of them, but I'm not going to do that because we got to be true to our time, right? And I'm so glad, Victoria, thank you. Thank you for bringing your girls. Because I really wanted some young girls here today because I knew, thank you, sweetheart, for coming. Because I knew that what God had for us today was just not for all, it was for every age group. And I believe you girls are going to be empowered today, all right? So y'all listen to the testimonies that are here, because I believe they're going to be empowered. And we may have some more young girls joining us today too, okay? Because I believe it's going to take us there. Because you know our young people are moving at an accelerated rate, and they're like sponges. They get it now, they're doing it now. So that's why I wanted my young people here, my young females, because I felt like if we can get them even more pushing now, they will be further along than we are now, still trying to get somewhere. Y'all got it? And to my seniors in the house, my wiser, it's not too late for you either, right? Yeah. Anybody over 50, it ain't too late for us, right? I'm in that bunch, so I put myself there too. We put a little dye on there to make it look right. That Grace still pop up and say, I'm here. I'm like, okay, I guess I better tell that Grace you in. Down. But it's not what was happening. I'm gonna let you go first because I know you have to step out. But just start out telling our sisters that are here. She said at the end that she is the J. Dawkins.
JLD Scholarship, John Lee Ray Dawkins Jr. Scholarship Fund, or JLD Scholarship Fund.
Yes, and that's Lily. For all that you
Yes.
don't know, Lily was a part of our church. And I'm gonna let you tell that story. So I'm gonna let her talk to you about her business, what's going on right now. And I want you to start from telling them a little bit about the background, the history of, and then talk about the inception of what God gave you. And then let's tell them about what's happening with that. And what you had to do. Faith without works is what, y'all? Alright? Okay? And she's young. Do you mind telling them your age, or you don't want to tell them your age?
Oh, I don't mind. I mean, I'll be 39 this month.
39! Tell them the age it all happened, okay? And there's things that have been happening in Dia's life for a long time. Okay, go ahead, sis.
Absolutely. So, like Miss Tina said, my brother Lee, Johnny Leroy Dawkins Jr., he was a member here at Life in the Word. And in 2008, he was murdered due to gun violence. And obviously that was a huge blow to the heart for our family. And it was one of those things where you just don't see it happening to your family member. You know, you hear things happening, but you're just like, not my family. But it was just the two of us. So for me, it was literally like losing a limb, because it was just like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, I don't have my right-handed person. And so it took a minute. Me and my mom, we, had to go through the grieving process and everything like that, which I feel like in life you might always have your moments and stuff like that, because we do. But eventually, I was just telling my mom, I'm like, I don't know, it just don't feel right for this just to be it. Like, he was here and now he's just, that's just it. It's like, well, that's up, and so, and just through thinking and, coming up with some ideas, we finally decided, well, how about we do a scholarship fund in his honor, just to pour back into some of the African-American males in our community, and now, we extend it to Black and Brown males in the community. And so that is in 2010 where we decided to start the Johnny Leroy Dawkins Jr. Scholarship Fund. And so we just started out with a fish fry. We was like, well, what do we do? And Mom was like, well, people in Lexington love fish, fish fry, And so the community showed up and supported us, and we were extremely grateful for that. So that's where we started in 2010, and then in 2020, during the pandemic, that gave me a time to really research to figure out how to make it legitimate. And we were able to then, I worked with a consultant so that we could have it established as a federally established nonprofit 501c3. And when I got into that process, I had no idea what I was actually getting myself into. I thought that I was just going to do some paperwork, and then we're now a 501c3, and all right, now people just gonna start, just say, okay, yeah, now we're gonna donate, gonna do this, gonna do that. I had no idea that what I was about to step into was literally getting myself into a second full-time job that did not pay. There are a lot of nights, and mind you, I am a wife and a mother to a 3-year-old. That takes a lot of energy, and I spend, 8 hours a day given to a job, and then I find myself up late at night and early mornings, because I have to figure out, how do I create a website? How do I, create forms so that people can get involved in such and this. And so it has definitely taken a lot more work than I ever would have imagined. But the thing that keeps me going is my passion for it. And I think to myself, I was telling Ms. T, I also simultaneously, while working in my job, I also am a part of an organization that we have in work. They are called Employee Resource Networks. And these networks, they represent all the various parts of diversity within our organization. And we have the Black African American Employee Resource Network, where I am now the chair for the Triad chapter. Thank you. Oh yeah, sounds great, right? So it's another full-time job within that full-time job. And so I was telling Ms. T that for a really long time in my life, pretty much probably all of my life up until very recently, I always sort of disqualified myself. I've always sort of felt like, well, somebody else should be doing that and I should just be helping them. And so I remember even in becoming the chair for the Triad chapter in this employee resource, I'll just say ERN, at work. I came in, I was at one point the communications chair, and then I was the co-chair. Somehow somebody asked me to be the co-chair. Well, then the co-chair left, and somebody needed to be the chair. And I was like, I don't know. Yeah. And I was like, well, I think what I'm gonna do is step on that. I'm just going. And they were like, can you please just hold on with this, But I say all that to say, I felt like, whose idea was it to put me here?
Come on, sis.
Whose idea was it for me to be the person now, the co-founder and executive director of a nonprofit organization, and having to have conversations with the mayor and with city council people? Like, whose idea was this? Me? Dia? No. I'm the person that should be helping the person doing these things. But I was telling Ms. T that it got to a point where God finally was like, all right, you have nowhere else to hide, sister. Are you gonna do it or are you not gonna do it? And it was just like, as much as I was afraid, I'm still afraid. I was afraid when Ms. Tina asked me to come today because sometimes it's hard to see your value, or it's hard to see that you possess the capability to do the thing that life is requiring you to do. You just feel like, not me though. And but God is like finally putting me in a place where He's like, but you though.
Yes.
And I see you. I've been seeing you. And although you haven't seen what's in you, I'm now placing you in positions that you don't have anywhere else to hide, sister. You gotta do it. You have two choices. You can do it afraid, make the choice to stop disqualifying yourself, and live fulfilled in this life because you put it all out there. You got one life to live. Put it all out there. Do it. You might be afraid, but do it anyway. You don't feel like you got the resources, do it anyway. Keep on doing it, because where I was having to put money in places where I didn't have the money. I'm like, I live in this apartment by myself, and I need to put money in to get a consultant or to do this and do that. Shucks, I'm trying to find, let me go get these $1 noodles and this $1, hamburger meat so I can make a quick spaghetti. I don't got it, but it's like, do it anyway. Yes. Do it anyway, because guess what? The more you keep doing it, I'm going to find the resources for you. I'm going to put the people in place that's going to help you. I'm going to make sure that you have what you need. And that is what's been happening. I've heard people say this. I've heard people's testimonies, and they talk about, but I did it. And the more I kept doing it, the resources I needed came to place. And I'm thinking, yeah, that was for you, though. That happened for people like me. But it happened for people like me. And I'm just overwhelmed by the hand of God moving in my life. And I want to say this in the process, because I don't want to make it seem like throughout all of this, I've just been like this, radical believer that never stopped believing and was like, oh God, I know you're going to do it. There were many times I was like, I'm done with this. I don't even know if I believe this. I think that, I don't get it. And through it, God has been so very patient with me. and he's had so much grace for me. He saw the moments where I did not believe anymore. I didn't believe him anymore. But he was still patient with me and had grace and was still like, but you still qualify.
Yes.
It's gonna happen. So you either keep on doing it and just do it afraid, do it feeling not qualified, do it or don't, and then just be very unfulfilled in this life. Don't, and just all of the purpose, all of the things, just let it go to the wayside. Just let it do. You can do that. That's an option. That's an option to just do nothing. And let all those dreams die. Let all that purpose die. Let all of the things that's inside of you that's supposed to come to life die. One day when you go to the grave like your brother did, all of that goes with you. That is an option. But did I want to live with that option though? Nah. And so, to Miss Tina's point, she's, so, and throughout all of this process, ideas just have constantly been flooding. All these ideas, they just flood, I wake up and I cannot sleep until I write it down because it's just flooding the ideas. And so, we have been very diligent throughout this process, giving scholarships to some of the young men here in the Lexington community, and that's our heartbeat, to continue to do that. And so I told my mom about a year or so ago, I was like, I really want us to start to dive into this piece where we join the fight against gun violence, because it's just so much of it happening in the world, so much happening in our community, and I'm like, I sit back and I get so angry, and I get just so full of just like, why can't this be different? And I'm like, you know what? God has given us a platform, so if the very least, I can stand up and be a voice to say, enough is enough. We can make different choices. You might come from a position or a surrounding that tells you should be doing this, you should go after this dude, you should go hurt somebody because that's how you prove yourself, you should be doing all these things. You have the choice, or you have the choice to say, but I could do something different though. Like, that's a choice. That's a choice to choose to do something different. And what if us using our platform to stand up to say, you do have that choice. You do realize that, don't you? And one person hear that message and say, so I do have a choice to do something different. What if that one person hears that and decides to make a different choice? That could lead to one more life that's not lost. That could lead to one more family member that don't have to go mourn their loved one that's in a grave. That can lead to one more family that don't have to go see their loved one behind bars. That can lead to one more family, one more mother that don't have to see her son in a grave or her son in jail. One more sister that don't have to mourn the loss of her brother or see her brother in jail. One more child that don't have to see their dad in a grave or to go have to see them in jail. One more. That can just lead to one more. And if it just leads to that one more, well then that one more can lead to one more. And then that can lead to one more. So in that, the idea came for us to have our very first Community Against Gun Violence block party. And so excited about that. And we're gonna, it's this June. Saturday, June 3rd. June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. I didn't know that until doing some research. But that is going to be happening Saturday, June 3rd. And I'm just believing, I'm like, I want to have all these big goals for it. And I want to say, well, I want to save the city. And I want to say, but at this point, God was like, yeah, sometimes less is more. It gets overwhelming to think I'm going to save a city, or I'm going to save a state, or I'm going to save a nation. But what if I just say one person?
Yes.
What if I just start there? And so that's the goal, just to get in the mind of one person and just say, I just want to make a different choice. And even if it's, somebody might not be thinking about going and hurting someone, but maybe they think about hurting themselves. Maybe they just say, I just decide I'm going to make a different choice, because that's one thing I'm learning in this life is that we have the choice to make a different choice.
Yes.
And that is what I want people to gain from this. And I'll leave with this. One of my favorite songs, NDRE, It's a Beautiful Day. In her song, she says, life is a journey, not a destination. There are no mistakes, just chances we've taken. Lay down your regret, for all we have is now. And I love the way that song starts out because it reminds me that in all of the work that I'm doing, and as hard as it can be, there will be mistakes. We've done this fish fry for 13 years now. This was the first year we ever ran out of food. Ran out of food. We didn't anticipate that happening. We always had enough because we always knew what kind of crowd we could expect. But this year, God said, well, we're going to up the notch. We're going to up the ante for you. We found ourselves in there scrambling. Mistakes were made. Fish was burned. Plates were not what we wanted them to be this time. It happened, you know? But it's like there's mistakes that'll be happening, but there's no regret.
That's right.
Because all we have is now. Now we can just say, well, you know what? That was a good time. Now we'll learn for the next time. We'll be more prepared for a bigger crowd next time. And so throughout this process, I'm like, yeah, there might be mistakes made. You know, this is a journey. It's not a destination. So it's not like, once I get there, let me just get there. No. This is a journey. Keep going. Keep going. Don't just wait for you to be, because that's the one thing that happens for me sometimes is that when I commit to do something, I commit to do it well. I want to see it through, do the best to my ability, and sometimes that causes me to put extra pressure on myself for perfection. And then sometimes that pressure for perfection then ends up leading me to deadlock. I can't even move because I'm just like so stuck in my head. But it's like, don't worry about perfection. Just go ahead and do it. Just do what you can do in this moment. If you need help, the resources will come, because that's the one thing I'm like, well, who's going to help me? You know? And then, when the resources do come, because what I learned is people are way more willing to help than I ever thought. People are like, I'm here. It's amazing, because I didn't imagine that people would be so willing to help, but they are. And then when they do, then you're like, well, I don't want to bother people. I don't want to. And as God was finally like, girl, if you don't start asking these people for help. Because you do have individuals that will say, oh, I want to help, and they're just doing it out of fashion. They don't really mean it. But then you have people who are saying, I want to help, and they mean it. And so I'm like, if you don't really want to help, don't say nothing, because I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to ask, and I'm going to follow up now. God is like giving me the confidence to say, follow up. Follow up. So I just encourage you, the things in my life now, I just think you got one life, dear. Your brother didn't make it past 25. So every year God gives me past 25. I live it with purpose. I live it, with joy, and so I'm like, you get this one life, put everything out there. Put it all out there. Just put it all out there. And if you have to do it, do it right, because eventually that confidence, it will come. It absolutely will come.
Amen. I'm going to get me an airplane seat somehow. I got to get me one, sis. You might think you can make me one with your creative ability. Oh my gosh! There were certain things she said. Now this didn't start now. She said back in 2010. So it's 2023. That's 13 years later. So it doesn't matter how long. Even if you've been planning and had an idea, seed go in the ground, but it's a time for that seed to germinate. Some things gotta happen before it can actually sprout up and start producing leaves. And even when the leaves come, you still might not have no fruit. It may be another season, you gotta wait for the fruit. And when the fruit get on the tree, people people can eat of your seed.